So, Cyberpunk has been out for over a week now, and after mainlining the main story in about 20-ish hours, I feel totally comfortable saying that this is now easily in my top 10 games of all time. But I can't say that without acknowledging the problems that a lot of the game's user base is experiencing. So in this video, I want to give my own personal review of this game. So, let's get started. First of all, before I get any further in this video, I want to talk about some of the complaints that people have with this game so that you understand what I mean when I say it's a flawed masterpiece. I've seen tons of clips of this game running on last-gen hardware and it looks incredibly bad. Like, it's to the point where it begs the question, why wasn't this game delayed again? You can even look at footage from somebody running this game on like a top tier PC and tell that this game should have been delayed again. And I feel bad for the dev team over at CD Projekt Red because there's absolutely no way they weren't forced by higher ups to put this game out in its current state. You just know for a fact that this was a decision by the higher ups at CDPR and their shareholders. And because of that decision, you see these hard-working devs who poured damn near 8 years of their life into this game, and now they're getting death threats, and that's just a shame. Now, for me personally, I have full faith in CDPR that they will get these issues resolved and deliver patches to make this game what it should have been on last-gen consoles. But for now, that's all I'm gonna say on the matter. Now on to my actual review of this game. See, I played through this game entirely on the Series X, so I didn't have half the problems that the people playing on last-gen hardware had. The only two bugs I experienced while playing this game was a small hitch a few days after launch where I was driving around Night City and the game froze for about 5 seconds and then came back. And this only happened to me once, and it hasn't happened since the 1.04 patch. And the other bug that I've experienced is a pretty common occurrence where an NPC will be smoking a cigarette, and then when they're done, the cigarette just levitates in front of them. It's a bit annoying, but it's not really game breaking, and I barely notice it when it happens. And these are the only two bugs that I've personally experienced with this game. And I'm doing everything I can to emphasize that this is my personal experience with this game. Because I realize I'm in the minority on this. Because the clips I've seen of people playing on anything from like a base Xbox One all the way up to a top tier PC, some of the bugs you see in these clips are absolutely crazy. I'm talking game-breaking bugs, like stuff where things will get stuck when you're in a quest and you can't get to it, so now you can't complete a main quest. Or things like a car flying through the air and landing on you and killing you somehow. I mean, there's a lot of clips of these kind of bugs out there on YouTube, and it's just wild to see. But for me personally, like I said, I've only experienced those two small bugs that I mentioned. Really, the most notable thing I had to deal with was FPS drops that would usually happen when driving through the city really fast or running through a really dense, crowded area. But other than that, it felt like a pretty stable 60 FPS. Keep in mind, I do have VRR on my TV, so that could also play a part in my experience. But onto the really good stuff about this game. I think this is front to back one of the best stories I've ever played in a video game. For me personally, it's right up there with Red Dead 2 and Red Dead 1 in terms of storytelling. It's a top tier story with some of the coolest characters I've seen in gaming. From Jackie Wells to Johnny Silverhand to Judy to Pan Am and just about everyone in between. Each character brings something vastly different to the game and has so many meaningful moments that add so much more depth than what you typically see in a video game. I went into this game knowing absolutely nothing about the world. I purposely avoided just about all the trailers for this game, with the exception of the launch trailer that I watched just a few days before launch. I wanted to go into this game completely blind, and I think that's something that really helped me enjoy the characters even more. For this game's story and characters, I have no problem giving it a 10 out of 10. As for the environment, this is one of the most dense games I've ever seen, if not the most dense game I've ever seen. There's just so many different things happening at any given time in this game. The amount of traffic on screen is just insane, and you're getting 3 different types of traffic at any given time. You've got crazy amounts of vehicles on the road, crazy amounts of pedestrians on screen, and then on top of that, you've got all the vehicles flying above the city. The world feels so living and vibrant. It is easily the closest representation to a real-life city that I've ever seen in a video game in terms of just its sheer density. Whenever you turn this game on, you really do feel like you're a part of Night City, and what makes it even better is that I like to play my games at night, and when I'm playing games at night, I'm usually wearing headphones. And playing this game with headphones and hearing a lot of the little details when you're driving or walking through the city is just spectacular. The environment for this game easily gets a 10 out of 10. And now we're on to combat, and this was one of the things I was most worried about. Like I said, I hadn't watched any of the trailers for this game up until the launch trailers, so I didn't see any gameplay or any combat. But from what I was hearing, people were saying the combat wasn't that great. So I kind of went into the game expecting subpar gunplay and melee combat. But I ended up being very pleasantly surprised by how damn good the fighting was in this game. The gunplay reminded me of the kind of thing you'd see in Rage 2. It feels really visceral and the guns feel like they really pack a punch. And as for the melee combat, I think this is probably one of the hardest things to do in a first-person game, but I think they nailed it for the most part. It's fun to use the melee weapons in the game, like the katanas and the machetes, and it's also pretty fun to just use your bare fists every now and then. So I think it's more than fair to give the combat a 9 out of 10. I think if I had to pick one real gripe I had with the actual game's mechanics, it would probably be the driving. I just feel like the cars oversteer quite a bit, and handbraking on turns while on a motorcycle just makes you lose complete control of your bike. But all in all, the experience I had with this game was absolutely fantastic, and I have no problem putting this in my top 10 games of all time. And the only reason I'm not willing to put it in my top 3 of all time is because of the bugs and the state that it's in on last gen hardware. But once the next gen patch for this game drops in March and I revisit the game, I'm sure I'll have no problem saying it's in the top 3 games of all time for me. It's one of the best stories I've ever played, and it takes place in one of the coolest environments I've ever seen, and it has some of the most amazing characters in gaming. And if you're on the new consoles or even PC, I cannot recommend this game enough. But if you're on last gen hardware, I'd probably wait to pick it up until at least a few more patches are done to improve performance. But what do you guys think? I know this game has been extremely divisive, so I want to hear your opinions. What has your experience been with the game so far? Are you enjoying it? What, if any, bugs are you experiencing? What are you playing it on? Are you playing it on the new consoles, the old consoles, or are you playing it on PC? Leave a comment below and let me know what you're thinking. Leave a like if you liked the video, and please subscribe if you would be so kind. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.